Hello, I'm the Angry Spork. The first time I did this theme year, I looked at the first time the Dark Knight met up with the heroes in the half shell. Today, I begin reviewing the crossover that came right after that. I'm taking...
I knew it, brah! I knew you'd finally understand who the bestest writer is of all time, and then go and read the other books he wrote about it. I knew it! I was right!
No, I'm actually taking issue with...
Wait, you're gonna review the third one instead of the second one? That doesn't make any sense. I mean, usually you've got a more chronological order to it, but... Gloating withdrawn, brah.
Dandy. As I was saying, I'm taking issue with Batman, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Adventures, released shortly after the story penned by James Tynion IV, but instead focusing on the brothers Hamato as seen in their 2012 cartoon, with the iconic animated series interpretation of The Dark Knight, Gotham, and more. Let's start with issue number 1 and see if this comic makes us want to turn the page or turn our heads. Issue 1's cover has a Gotham backdrop as the Turtles are standing with the Caped Crusader. Very simple and effective, love the use of light against their weapons, though Donnie seems to be pretty far behind the rest of them for some reason.
That's me over in Cootie Town.
It's like the rest of them decided to change where they were posing at the last minute and didn't tell him before someone snapped a picture. A credits page features the characters in silhouette, outlined in red, not unlike the ending credits card for the new Batman Adventures. The story is written by Matthew K. Manning, with art by Joe Samariva, John Parsons, and yes, Leonardo Ito. Undoubtedly a coincidence, but delightful nevertheless. Though I wagered jokes around the offices about where his brother Raphael was at a given time, or if his dad was the original Pizza Rat, probably got old real quick. We begin with a man carrying a duffel bag leaking money as he runs into an alley when a pair of eyes from the shadows drops in, asking the favor of telling the man's friends about him. It's straight up Tim Burton's first Batman movie, except for the fact that it's actually Michelangelo asking if there's a pizza place nearby. Granted, it feels like a non sequitur, but the guy asked a question and Mikey answered. I also want to point out the graffiti on the wall. It's kind of crowded and difficult to tell what the words are, and you have an Asian-looking woman's profile next to a kind of smiley face. It's all very cluttered. It's like the spot got tagged by a couple different artists, which just seems like it ruins everyone's efforts when you think about it. I mean, if you're going to display your talent with the aerosol-propelled arts, at least find an unused canvas, unless it's against the law or something, in which case maybe stick to actual canvas. The crook passes out just as Mikey recites the classic "I am the Knight" line, which he claims to have practiced as we're introduced to his brothers, each with a brief descriptor of their personality. They take their leave as the police arrive and we go to Gotham City, where Batman drops into a domicile. The skylight was already broken, so hey, time saver. As he walks down a hallway and effortlessly takes out a couple of goons in the shadows, we can hear TV broadcasts of some kind. Well, two of them. One's happy dialogue and the other is reports of tragic events. As you might expect, Bats has arrived to retrieve Harvey Dent, and like other characters upon introduction, gets a ring around his head for focus. But of course, it's got two colors, and that's hilarious. While he's watching a small tube TV about, I guess, military conflicts, he's got an HD set for Pretty Pretty Pegasus, the cartoon within a cartoon from Teen Titans Go. Well, that basically confirms that show and Batman the Animated Series exists in the same universe. There's no denying it now. This is proof positive. Wait for it. Wait for it. And now the internet has imploded. Though it's interesting to note that the dirty, grimy half of the room, with the TV about bloodshed and war, coincides with Harvey's clean side as he's watching, while the tidier side playing the high-def cartoon about friendly equines is on the scarred, ugly half. Usually it's the other way around. I mean, his chair matches up with his clean and ugly sides, so the fact that the room is a little different, I think is something to think about. But for now, it's time to go back to the asylum. But Dent insists that he'd recently been to a second home, one without a Two-Face, a Batman, or even Gotham City. When pressed for how he escaped Arkham and the location of other inmates, he draws a triangle in the dust on the TV, saying they'd all gone down the rabbit hole.
Whoa, Lewis Carroll references are strictly the Mad Hatter shtick. He could sue you, man. Well, and again, Harvey is a lawyer, so he could at least represent himself, save a few bucks.
In the Turtles' lair, Leo is giving a lecture on not being seen, because ninja, and mutant turtles, when Donatello tries getting everyone's attention, but fails until April acts as the voice of reason to back him up that they need to listen. The triangle signal popped up on Donnie's laptop, indicating use of a portal technology used by their nemesis, the Krang.
In case you never caught the 2012 cartoon, things to know would include that the Krang is not a single evil brain alien, but several evil brain aliens that cause trouble throughout the series. And April O'Neil is not only a teenager, closer in age to the Ninja Turtles, but also learning the ways of the ninja under Master Splinter. If you didn't know that already, it'll be useful information to have in the review going forward.
And for the uninitiated, yes, Donnie's blushing does indicate he's got a serious crush on his human friend. Mikey expresses some frustration at facing the Krang after beating them so recently, not being able to be more like superheroes or throw random objects into Donnie's lab, but the code they were raised with stresses they go where they're needed. Bats is skulking around Arkham Asylum, not for a long overdue chat with a doctor about his dead parents, but to check out Harvey's cell, one of several currently vacant ones. Seeing the triangle shape on the wall, he takes a sample as Aaron Cash walks by, with one of the doctors, mentioning security cameras got fried when the mass escape took place. The Turtles and April have followed Donnie's makeshift tracker to an open Krang portal, Leo guessing whatever came through is likely still nearby. So cue Mikey being pulled beneath the knee-level water. Raph dives in for the grab, but somehow loses his little brother, just as everyone's flashlights are suddenly covered in muck.
Well, they are in a sewer. How O'Neil is breathing without a problem is a superpower on its own.
Mikey suddenly appears, his face apparently showing that his superhero kick has entered the unnecessarily dark and gritty phase, when Donatello's scanner seems to cast doubt on his identity. But probably not as much as when he turns into Clayface and starts attacking them. That's kind of a giveaway. The real Michelangelo does resurface, so does Clayface think he just knocked the guy out or something? Just kind of a quick recovery is all. Anyway, the party dude uses one of his special tactics, annoyance, calling Hagen Mudbutt in order to draw him closer to the portal. Sadly, that seems to be the extent of his plan. Noticing the dissolving effect the water seems to have on their new foe, Donnie opens up a sewer pipe, releasing a torrent that forces Clayface back through the portal just before it closes, adding that he's all washed up. You know, I wouldn't have helped you if I knew that pun was coming. Yeah, I know.
Hey, if anything, the force of that pun only helped send Clayface back home. That's just science.
In the Batcave, an ever-witty butler checks in on his boss, who mentions Two-Face's ramblings of an alternate world, as well as strange energy residue in his cell that has an otherworldly quality. No sooner does he say the Bat computer is programmed to detect similar power signatures does the alarm go off, and he's headed out, telling Alfred to call Robin for a meetup. In New York's Chinatown, some robotic foot ninja are skulking around, coming upon an alley full of their brethren, reduced to spare parts at the hands and hammer of Joker and Harley Quinn.
We later find out that one of the robots asked why they don't look like their counterparts from Suicide Squad. And then they went nuts. More so. Turns out they're not big fans of that movie either.
Issue 2's cover has a bunch of plush dolls resembling the Turtles, the Bat Crew, strung up with tape over their mouths. Batman one's looking kinda nauseous, as a mallet-wielding Harley Quinn smiles, sitting on a pile of other toys resembling Gotham Rogues, Foot Ninja, and related mutants, with what looks like stuffing that makes it seem as if they're ripped up. The April one looks especially irritated. It actually looks fun for a cover to a comic.
Though the creepy undertones are hard to ignore. Basically, if something like this were to happen in story, Harley taking the time and resources to make cutesy effigies of these characters and play out a graphic scenario in her spare time, loving the Joker might be the least of her psychological issues.
The credits page, again, have silhouettes of characters, though it's split with the characters in colors, Joker and Quinn on one side in red, Shredder and his ninja on the purple side. If they end up joining forces, would they then become magenta? Anyway, we jump back in time about a week, where Harleen is being escorted through the asylum, only to slip on a wet floor as a pretense to knock the guards out and quote Scooby-Doo. This is all so she can free Joker, who is currently busy reading Make Me Laugh by M. Hamill.
Oh, these guys are diabolical in their references. I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if the picture on the back cover is an intentional nod to the end of The Force Awakens.
But the breakout seems to lack a certain flair for Mr. J, and he questions if his mentoring of Harley has truly taken root. Then he sees two triangular portals appear and becomes inspired. He drags the guards along the floor, dropping them in such a way that they complement the gateways in completing a smiley face. On the page, it looks pretty funny, and even from the clowns' perspectives, it might take the form intended, but only they will end up getting the joke after those portals close. But hey, maybe that's just okay by him. Cut to the present, where J-Man has just explained all this to Shredder in a hideout at the pier. But when his name is fumbled around one too many times, his patience is depleted, so he sicks Rocksteady and Bebop on the newcomers. Shredder's mutant henchmen. They'd take offense to being called pets if they were paying attention. They rarely pay attention.
If we were talking about the 80s versions of these characters, I'd say that's an accurate description. But for the 2012 show, one of them used to be a spy, the other used to be an arms dealer, and they were under constant intimidation by a much more threatening Shredder. So they were a pretty far cry away from the bumbling street goofs of my childhood.
But all it takes is a magic trick involving a rubber chicken to distract them. Seriously, Rocksteady looks genuinely impressed, and that's awesome. But then it explodes in their faces. Though maybe it's better used a rubber chicken and not a pencil. And as it happens, Joker's rigged the entire ceiling with weaponized novelties. From here, we go to Gotham, where Robin meets up with Bats, saying that he got Alfred's call right next to Batgirl. Rookie mistake, Boy Wonder. They were on a team-up, and his awkward pause is probably why Batman's smirking, meaning maybe they weren't so much fighting crime as they were making out. That would kind of break canon with the show, since they only dated in their civilian identities before they discovered each other's heroic IDs. But hey, Aaron Cash showed up, and he wasn't even created in the comics before the show was over, so whatever, I guess. Also, did Batman just teleport from the gargoyle to the other side of his sidekicks? Or maybe jump over them? What would be the purpose of that? Anyway, he says he's detected the first of what will likely be more interdimensional portals, which the younger two are a little incredulous about. The best guess is that after use, the portal disappears and shows up at another location, making it difficult to track and making an escape, like at Arkham, a complete mystery. To everyone but you. Naturally.
Yeah, if this story has one fault, it's that a version of Batman that was probably the most grounded interpretation for several years came to such a narrow conclusion given the evidence. I know, world's greatest detective, but that doesn't mean moments like these don't feel a little contrived sometimes.
It's at that moment a portal opens before them, just as the Turtles and April find one themselves. The exact number of them that could be active is hard to tell, based on energy displacement. As Leo starts laying down a plan, Mikey sticks his hand through the portal and feels something. I won't show it, but it's exactly as hilarious as you'd expect. A bat punch sends him flying, and the Dark Knight steps through, demanding answers. Naturally, Raph's first instinct is size first, questions later, which does not pan out well for him. Mikey gives a panicked reaction to each cape jumping through, though Donnie has a decidedly different reaction to Batgirl.
Yeah, it's not necessarily strictly April. Donatello's got a thing for redheads. But can we really blame him?
Remember when I said that things were a bit too obvious for Batman? Yeah, he guesses the Turtles are genetic mutations, which, okay, he encountered that in the show, but he also concludes ninjutsu training, even though the Turtles haven't really done anything yet. Maybe that's based on their weapons, like Raph's sigh that he catches in midair before it impales him. Still, seeing how and why he comes to these conclusions a bit more would be at least something, right? Donatello tries an olive branch, only to be kicked in the face, and April isn't having any of that. Pretty aggressive of Babs, but maybe she's on edge because of the whole alternate dimension thing. While Robin has a humorous fight with Michelangelo, April asks her fellow Ginger why she's working with the alien Krang, but having never heard of those creatures, Batgirl gives a rather excellent retort. "I'm not the one hanging out with the little green men."
For the last time, Donnie and I are just friends. Unless the writers want to hint at something more to string shippers along for another season or two.
But as for this specific fight, I think they're pretty evenly matched. Both are fairly new to their respective night lives, and while April's ninja training has an edge over Barbara's years of gymnastics, Barbara is a couple years older, so probably a bit physically stronger. But I'll leave that to death battle enthusiasts. Leo and Batman realize they're on the same side, just as a cry for help rings out from elsewhere in Central Park. A woman is running from a plant mutant known as Snakeweed, and is almost caught if not for Leo's katana and Batman's timely catch. The would-be victim runs off while everyone gathers to face the Turtles' old foe. But he's not alone. Poison Ivy. Mother Nature on a bad day. A really bad day.
But a really good hair day. Just wait until leg day. That's not until I think Saturday.
So far, the story has started off well, been thoroughly entertaining, and appropriately comedic given the version of the Turtles we're working with. The worst we've gotten is some generous conveniences in terms of bat deduction. Tune in next week to see if that improves, gets worse, or if Donatello decides to join up with Pam.
Hey, you scoff at the idea, but keep in mind, she's got red hair, and she wears green. Pam's probably not even going to need to use pheromones to make him switch sides. Yeah, that's outlandish once you think about it, is it? I'm the Angry Spork, and man, have I got issues.